This week on ANN, the Adventist Church in North America makes plans to elect a new executive secretary.
The Adventist Church in Panama reaches people through an online evangelistic campaign.
And later, we talk to the Global Women's Ministries Director about violence against women and children in the upcoming End It Now Sabbath.
These stories and more coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us this week.
The North American Division, or NAD, leadership has identified the process to elect a new executive secretary. The position became vacant when G. Alexander Bryant was elected NAD president on July 9.
Bryant has notified the members of the standing NAD nominating committee that they will meet on Monday, August 17th to select a name to be recommended to the NAD Executive Committee, which will then vote on the recommendation on August 18th.
Both the standing NAD nominating committee and the NAD Executive Committee will be chaired by Bryant.
On Thursday, August 20th, the General Conference Executive Committee will meet to vote the name recommended by the NAD Executive Committee.
The NAD Executive Secretary, along with the two other NAD officer positions of President and Treasurer, is voted by the General Conference Executive Committee and then assigned to work for the North American Division.
The new executive secretary will join Bryant and Randy Robinson, NAD Treasurer, as the leadership team of a division with more than 1.2 million members in the countries of Bermuda, Canada, Guam, Micronesia, and the United States.
Bryant said, "We ask the members in our territory to pray for this process. It takes all of us working together to advance God's kingdom."
Dozens of new believers joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Colon, Panama, after a recent online evangelist campaign. The evangelism program was also carried on the church's Nuevo Amanecer radio station. The campaign drew more than 700 viewers every night on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. To date, 81 people have been baptized throughout churches in the region. President of the Atlantic Panama Conference, Christian Espejo, said that one of the objectives of the campaign was to show that the church produces relevant content through available media. With churches closed since March, social media has been one of the effective principal tools readily available to spread the gospel. Themed Restored for a New Life, the 7-day online evangelistic campaign included keynote speaker Dante Gudot of the Freeport Hispanic Adventist Church in the United States. Dante preached on being restored through Jesus, the cross, prayer, worship, the Holy Spirit, forgiveness, and Bible promises. Some 150 church members contacted people and prayed for those who received the transmission link. At the end of each evening, the digital missionaries were to engage with those who connected and provide Bible studies for those who were interested. As a result of their efforts, 197 persons registered for Bible studies and requested additional resources during the 7-day evangelistic event. Those baptized in several churches in Colon completed their Bible studies weeks ahead of the online evangelistic campaign. The online evangelistic campaign is the first organized by the Atlantic Panama Conference. Local leaders say that plans are underway in the next few months for an online evangelistic campaign focused on young people.
As part of its Adventist Healthy You Health Initiative launch, the North American Division, or NAD, is continuing to encourage members, congregations, and organizations to plan physical activity events for their communities. Health Ministries Director for the Adventist Church in NAD, Angie Brower, said, "A great time to encourage exercise and get started if you haven't is this year's Made to Move Challenge. This special Health Emphasis Week, which runs September 19 to 26, 2020, can work well for individuals and also for church groups and more." Brower said that coming up with a plan, as well as being flexible, encouraging, and careful, is key. She said churches are encouraged to coordinate a time when they exercise together, using carefully formulated exercise guides, which are available for beginners, intermediate, and advanced activity levels. The together part can be through an online tool such as Zoom or individually at home, but at the same time. Brower wants to remind churches that if they choose to do activities in person, appropriate social distancing measures should be carefully put in place. As an example, the Columbia Union Conference is hosting a 5K 1-mile run or walk, which coincides with the NAD Made to Move Challenge. And although the union headquarters is just a few miles from the NAD offices, the event will be held in cyberspace. The Seventh-day Adventist Church has long promoted a message of healthful living. In 2007, the NAD launched Adventist in Step for Life. It serves as an opportunity to make our schools and churches healthier by teaching about the importance of a healthy, active lifestyle. For the past few years, the NAD Health Ministries Department has been working to rebrand this initiative to bring together the many other areas of healthful living into one package, and hence is pleased to announce the new initiative titled Adventist Healthy You. More information and resources for the Made to Move Challenge are available on the Health Ministries website. The NAD Health Ministries Department will hold a series of webinars to train churches on how to use the program. For more, visit nadhealth.org.
The Women's Ministries Department in the Indian Ocean Union Conference has continued to be active throughout the duration of the COVID-19 pandemic. Since the lockdown in Madagascar, women from various churches have been involved in outreach ministry. Every week, they go into remote villages to provide hot meals to those in need and vulnerable children. So far, nearly 400 children have benefited from this project. In addition, more women came together to sew hundreds of masks, which were later distributed to at-risk families. They also donated warm clothes to get the families through winter. In addition to sharing meals and distributing masks, the Women's Ministries Department has broadcast workshops and special programs, both online and television. In June, the union launched its Women's Ministries Week of Prayer across all of the islands. Daily studies were broadcast on several radio channels and through social media outlets such as YouTube and Facebook. Thousands of viewers and listeners tuned in daily, and the feedback at the end of the week of prayer was overwhelming. Many have shown interest in getting to know more about Christ and the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Integrating mental health care into primary care of chronically ill patients provides patient outcomes and significantly reduces healthcare costs, according to a new study from Loma Linda University Health.
The study, titled Evaluation of the Healthcare Cost Offsets of MEND, a Family Systems Mental Health Integration Approach, published in Family Process, found that healthcare costs may be reduced by an estimated 34.3% each year using an integrated mental and physical healthcare approach.
While focusing on chronically ill patients, the study presented similar findings with other studies over the past decade that have highlighted the benefits for a variety of patient populations when a behavioral health professional is integrated into the primary care team.
Brian J. Distelberg, the study's principal investigator, said it reiterates the need for mental health providers to be integrated into the primary care team. Even though behavioral health is a branch of medicine, it's often treated separately. Now people are starting to see the importance of behavioral health working side by side with the rest of medicine.
Distelberg said health systems have sometimes been reluctant to integrate mental health into primary care because of the initial cost and adjustment of workflows. However, once integrated, patients will experience significantly improved outcomes and costs will be significantly reduced.
Distelberg and the team at Loma Linda University Behavioral Health assessed the total healthcare costs of 107 adult patients over a 12-month period before and after the intervention, finding that there were better outcomes with less cost over time.
The study's patient population was composed of patients in Loma Linda University Behavioral Health MEND program, which offers behavioral health care to those also battling a physical health condition, such as kidney disease, cancer, or other chronic conditions.
Distelberg said, "We hope to see this type of integrated approach and the increased patient benefit and cost savings to health systems catch on more widely."
For more information, visit news.llu.edu.
Coming up, we sat down with Women's Ministries Director for the Global Seventh-day Adventist Church, Heather Dawn Small, to talk about End It Now Sabbath.
We'll be right back after the break.
We may look, pray, read, think, worship, sing, and share differently, but we all look forward to the Sabbath. And we all look forward to the future when Jesus will come again. With this message in mind, we arrived at a core component for a new identity system, the creation grid, a simple 7-column structure for layout. The grid is a reference both to the prophetic timeline as well as to the creation week that culminated in the seventh-day Sabbath. The first 6 columns of the grid belong to the designer. They can be filled with anything: text, images, illustrations, patterns, and logos. But the 7th column, the Sabbath column, does not belong to them. It is meant to be different and special. Regardless of what or where you are designing, you can always find information to help you communicate that we are all Seventh-day Adventists.
Welcome back.
On the fourth Sabbath in August each year, the Seventh-day Adventist Church recognizes End It Now Sabbath.
Thousands of local Adventist congregations around the world hold a special service to create awareness and reflect on fighting violence against women and children across communities and churches.
Leaders reiterated that while at the beginning the idea was promoted by the Women's Ministry Department of the Adventist Church, it has grown to reach across other departments and ministries of the World Church.
This week, we sat down with the Global Women's Ministries Director for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Heather Dawn Small, to talk about End It Now and why the initiative is still so important.
Heather Dawn, thank you so much for joining us this week on A&M Video. We're so happy to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm glad I could be here.
I want to go back just a couple years to 2010 when End It Now was first started, became an initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Can you sort of let's talk about why the church felt at that time something like End It Now was so important?
Well, at the time when End It Now started, it was a joint partnership between women's ministries and also ADRA. And there was this huge concern in the world at that time about abuse against women and girls. It had gotten to the point where the United Nations was actually calling it a pandemic. And so we felt, listen, this was one of our challenge issues in our department. Of the 6 challenge issues which we focus on, abuse is one. And so we thought, no, this is a time for us to really let our voice be heard when it comes to this issue of abuse.
It's interesting that you call it a pandemic, or it was called a pandemic abuse, because right now we're in the COVID-19 pandemic. We're all sort of in the midst of it.
That's right.
And people are looking at families again, and women and children, and abuse is there's statistics are saying abuse is on the rise again.
Definitely, yes, yes.
So is this an especially important time to be talking about this?
It is, because from what I've seen in the statistics that I've seen online, in every country that has had a lockdown time, a period, the statistics with abuse have definitely skyrocketed. Not just gone up a few percent, but gone up by 10, 20% in the instances of domestic violence. So yes, this has been a really rough time for women, girls, boys, and even our men who have been affected by abuse also.
I know this is a tough question to ask, but right now we're all online. Some students are going back to school. Some are staying home. Some of us are in the office. Some of us are at home working. And there isn't the eye on each other that there used to be. So I wanted to ask, what should friends and families be looking for if maybe there is abuse going on in the home? Or teachers, I think another group would be.
Well, I think the symptoms of someone who is suffering abuse will be very much the same as before, but we need to look out for them even more carefully now. Things like isolation. If this is a person who you used to talk to on the phone regularly when COVID-19 quarantine started, but now you'll find that they don't want to talk on the phone, or they'll talk, but they don't want to do a FaceTime or video talk. You need to start wondering, okay, what's going on? Why doesn't she want me to see her anymore? Or why doesn't she want to talk anymore? I think that's one of the symptoms. And with teachers also, when children come into school, a child who was very friendly, very open, has now become very quiet and very introverted. That's one of the signs that something is going on in that home. And it doesn't have to be, people sometimes say, okay, I'm looking for physical signs, but it doesn't always have to be physical signs, because abuse takes place in so many different ways. It could be verbal abuse on this person that's just breaking them down. And so you have to look at their behavior. And I think that's the number one thing that we should focus on. Has this person's behavior changed? And if so, why?
Yeah, and we need to be in prayer right now.
Definitely.
For ourselves and our families and our teachers to be making sure we're paying attention to those we love.
Yes.
But End It Now isn't just about domestic abuse. It covers so many issues. Could you talk about some of those other issues that End It Now
a lot
covers?
of people think End It Now is only domestic violence, and it's not. That's one of the main areas, because that's the biggest percentage when it comes to abuse. But we also look at areas like rape, which is also abuse. We look at dating violence, which happens a lot between our younger people, that we need to also look out for. We look at abuse in institutions like senior citizens' homes, abuse in prisons where women are being abused. Any kind of institution where a person is forced to stay. It could be a home for the mentally disabled. We also look at things like female genital mutilation, which is very big on the world stage. We also include under End It Now human trafficking. So we're looking at issues that are very much in people's eyes, that they may not think as being abuse, but it is. And it, again, in most cases, women and girls are the ones who are suffering the most.
So this weekend, August 25, is End It Now Sabbath. It is the fourth weekend of every August where we have End It Now emphasis Sabbath. Where can people find resources? I know you have prepared sermons and booklets and all sorts of resources for people. Where can they find those resources?
They could find it in two places. They can go to the enditnow.org website and look under resources, or they could go to our departmental website, women.adventist.org, and they could find it under resources also, where we have prepared the sermon for the Sabbath, seminars as well. And this year, which is really a blessing, one of the blessings that's come out of COVID, is that we have the actual person who wrote the sermon for us. He has done a video of the sermon, so people can download the video message and just show that to their members.
That's great. And again, End It Now, the End It Now website, and to the Women's Ministries website, and we'll have that linked below. Heather, Dawn, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm so happy to see you.
I'm happy to see you too, and I really appreciate the emphasis which you're putting on this. Thank you so much.
Anytime. It was great to see you. Thank you again.
Coming up, Ashley Chisholm is here with This Week in Adventist History.
But up next, Adventist Mission is here to share what happens when we allow Jesus to transform our hearts.
You have found what makes you happy, and then everything else will come into play.
It's important to all. The brain is infinity and beyond. There's no reason to never stop. There's always a reason to start.
Family. Family.
I've never seen anyone that's so excited to see just me for no reason than just to see me. And I'm trying to be a better person for her. It's a work in progress. it's nice to see someone that sees you from those little innocent eyes, who sees me as the guy that she loves and comes and gives hugs to. And
whether it's for my 3 children or my friends or my family, if this does not exist, then it's meaningless.
I want to remember this moment now, when 20 years from now she's an adult. Hopefully she's come to be a good adult.
Welcome back.
Aggie had a hard time keeping his temper, fought with other boys at school.
But one summer, he went to Bible camp and gave his life to Jesus, transforming his once angry heart.
Adventist Mission has more.
Emmanuel wanted to annoy 13-year-old Aggie during a break between French and physics classes at the Seventh-day Adventist school in Libreville, Gabon. He knew that Aggie had a short temper, so he started saying mean things. Annoyed, Aggie immediately slapped the boy on the cheek. Emmanuel didn't like being slapped, and he slapped Aggie back. Now Aggie was furious. He punched Emmanuel. Children crowded around the fighting boys. "Don't stop!" they yelled. "Let them fight!" A teacher's assistant came running, causing the children to scatter to their seats. He pulled them apart. "Why are you fighting?" "He was mean to me," Aggie said. "He hit me," Emmanuel said. "You shouldn't fight. Fighting is for animals. Apologize." As punishment, the boys had to spend 2 hours away from the other children, quietly thinking about what they had done. It was a long 2 hours. After some time, Aggie whispered to Emmanuel, "Why were you mean to me?" "I was only joking," Emmanuel whispered back. Aggie wished that he hadn't lost his temper. That summer, Grandfather sent Aggie to a Pathfinder campout. Aggie's Bible teacher also went to the campout, and he spoke for morning and evening worship. At the end of the 3-week campout, he asked whether any children wanted to give their hearts to Jesus. He told them how Jesus could change their hearts. Instead of anger, he could give them peace and love. When Aggie heard that, he remembered his short temper. He remembered how his temper led to fights and made his parents unhappy. He wanted to change, and he prayed, "Lord, I want to follow you." Then Aggie stood up and went to the front. People were surprised to see him standing. His Bible teacher was happy that he wanted to be baptized. After baptism, when Aggie came out of the river, he felt the same as before. He thought maybe something miraculous would have happened, but everything still seemed normal. But as the days passed, he noticed that he no longer enjoyed many things of the past. His friends noticed that he wasn't easily angered like before. Just the other day, Emmanuel brought some cakes to sell in class, and Aggie didn't want to buy one. "I don't want to buy anything today," he said. "I'm not feeling well." "Come on, buy one," Emmanuel said. "No, I can't," Aggie said. Emmanuel's face twisted in anger and he slapped Aggie. But Aggie didn't feel angry at all, and he quietly walked away. He was so grateful that with Jesus' help, his days of having a short temper were over. Jesus was changing his heart. In 2017, part of the 13th Sabbath offering helped construct a high school for 280 students in Aggie's hometown of Libreville, Gabon. Thank you for helping change lives through the 13th Sabbath offering. It makes a big difference.
Watch this and other mission stories online by visiting AdventistMission.org. Then click on videos at the top.
And finally, for today's episode, let's turn to Ashley Chisholm for a look at Adventist history.
This week we hear stories of several people who served in overseas missions fields.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. This week in 1922 was a week of sailings for the mission fields. On August 16th, 1922, Walter E. Hancock, his wife Katie, and younger sister Erna May Hancock set sail for Valparaiso, Chile. Walter and Katie were returning to the mission field, having previously served together in Guatemala, Algeria, Switzerland, and Spain. In that latter position, Katie Hancock had edited the Spanish language Signs of the Times. Of Katie, it was written that she was, quote, a very talented person, and her long service in Spain made her a valuable worker in the Spanish language. Those skills probably aided her in the city mission work she undertook in Chile and Argentina. For Erna May, however, it was her first foray into overseas service. An educator, she taught at the Chilean training school. Later, Erna May married Jimmy Culpepper, and together they served in the Southern European, South American, and Inter-American divisions. 3 days after the Hancock sailed for Chile, on August 19, 1922, Herbert Camden Lacey set sail for England. He had accepted a call to work at Stanborough Park College as the Bible instructor. Lacey was returning to education work in England, as he had taught there from 1904 to 1913. Born in England in 1871, Lacey grew up in England, India, and Tasmania, and he and his family became Seventh-day Adventists in 1887. As a young man, Lacey studied at Healdsburg College and then at Battle Creek College, forerunners of today's Pacific Union College and Andrews University. In 1895, he married Lillian Yarnell, and the newlyweds sailed for Australia, where they worked to establish Australasian Missionary College, today's Avondale University College. The Laceys then moved to California in 1902, where he taught Bible and New Testament Greek at Healdsburg. When the Laceys returned from England in 1913, they joined the faculty of Union College and then Washington Missionary College, today's Washington Adventist University. For the 2 years prior to 1922, Lacey spearheaded educational conventions in China, the Philippines, Japan, and other parts of Asia. The note that announces the departures of the Hancocks and the Laceys for their respective fields of labor ends. Let us add these workers to our prayer list. That sentiment still holds true today. Which workers for the cause of Christ can you pray for and support? What causes has God called you to champion on His behalf?
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
We'd love to hear from you. Send us your feedback and tell us how your church is making a difference in its community.
Be sure to capture plenty of video footage and photos, then write up a summary of the event's important details. And feel free to send full video reports as well.
You can reach us by sending an email to annvideo11@gmail.com.
Before we say goodbye, here's some good news from the book of 2 Peter chapter 1, verses 10 and 11.
The passage says, "Therefore, my brothers and sisters, make every effort to confirm your calling and election. For if you do these things, you will never stumble, and you will receive a rich welcome into the eternal kingdom of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ."
Amen. That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit Adventist.news for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.